Good evening, everyone. Have you ever felt like you're carrying the weight of someone else's world on your shoulders? A relationship, a situation, or even an old story that clings to your heart like a shadow? You're not alone. We've all been there. Emotional attachment is powerful, it can inspire, but when it's too heavy, it can trap us. But here's the truth. Detaching doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You stop losing yourself in something that doesn't serve your spirit anymore. The first step, understand that emotional attachment is natural. We form bonds because we care, because we love. But when those bonds start defining your worth, your happiness, your sense of self, that's when it's time to pause and reassess. Emotional attachment is a deep and natural connection we form with people, situations, or even beliefs. It's rooted in our desire to feel secure, valued, and understood, which are fundamental human needs. We attach because it feels good to connect, to belong, to have something or someone we can lean on. However, emotional attachment goes beyond just connecting. It intertwines with our identity, influencing how we perceive ourselves and the world around us. Over time, this attachment can grow stronger, often without us realizing it. We may start depending on these external factors for validation, comfort, or a sense of purpose. And while attachment can bring joy and a sense of fulfillment, it also has a shadow side. When the source of our attachment changes, becomes unavailable, or no longer aligns with our needs, it can create a sense of loss, pain, or confusion. Recognizing the nature of emotional attachment is the first step toward managing it. It's important to understand that attachment itself isn't inherently bad. It's a sign of our capacity to love and care deeply. But when we let it define our happiness or self-worth, it can begin to hold us back. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for finding balance and freedom in our emotional lives. Identifying the triggers of emotional attachment is an essential step in understanding why we hold on so tightly to certain people, situations, or beliefs. Triggers are often subtle and deeply personal. They can stem from unresolved past experiences, unmet emotional needs, or deeply ingrained fears. These triggers act as emotional cues, pulling us into patterns of attachment without us even realizing it. Sometimes it's a specific person who evokes feelings of dependency because they fulfill a longing for connection or validation. Other times, it might be a situation that feels safe and predictable, making it hard to imagine life without it. Triggers can also arise from beliefs we've held for years, ones that provide a sense of purpose or identity, but may no longer align with who we are becoming. Awareness is the key to breaking the cycle. By taking the time to reflect on what stirs these emotions within us, whether it's a fear of abandonment, a desire for approval, or a reluctance to face change, we begin to see the patterns more clearly. Recognizing these triggers isn't about judgment, it's about understanding. This awareness empowers us to respond with intention rather than react out of habit, creating space to make choices that support our emotional well-being. Setting healthy boundaries is a fundamental practice for emotional well-being. Boundaries are the invisible lines we draw around ourselves to protect our physical, emotional, and mental health. They are not walls or barriers meant to isolate us from others. Rather, they are safeguards that help us maintain a sense of self, respect, and balance in relationships. Without clear boundaries, we risk losing sight of our needs, desires, and values, allowing external forces to dictate our emotional landscape. A healthy boundary means knowing where you end and where another person begins. It involves understanding your limits, acknowledging your worth, and having the courage to assert your needs without guilt or fear of rejection. Boundaries can apply to many areas of life, including relationships with family, friends, colleagues, and even with ourselves. For example, you may need to set limits on how much time you spend caring for others at the expense of your own well-being. Or you may need to say no when someone asks for something that doesn't align with your values. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness, but rather an act of self-care. It's about honoring your right to live authentically and protecting your energy from being drained by demands or situations that do not serve your highest good. When we fail to set boundaries, we open ourselves up to emotional burnout, resentment, and a loss of personal autonomy. On the other hand, when we set and enforce boundaries, we create a space for healthier, more fulfilling relationships, where mutual respect and understanding can flourish. It's important to remember that boundaries may need to evolve over time. As our lives and circumstances change, we must continually assess what we need to feel safe, supported, and nurtured. Setting healthy boundaries also requires clear communication and expressing your needs in a respectful and assertive way, while also being open to others' boundaries. It's about creating a balance that works for both parties, ensuring that each person's emotional needs are met without compromising one another's well-being. Ultimately, the act of setting boundaries allows us to reclaim our power, protect our emotional space, and create the conditions necessary for personal growth, healing, and lasting fulfillment. Letting go is often one of the most difficult and transformative practices we can engage in, especially when we're emotionally attached to something or someone. It's not about forgetting or erasing the past, but about releasing the emotional grip that keeps us tethered to situations or feelings that no longer serve our growth. Letting go involves a deep, conscious decision to release what weighs heavily on our hearts, minds, and spirits, allowing us to move forward with greater freedom and peace. At its core, letting go requires acceptance, the acceptance that not everything is meant to stay in our lives forever. People, circumstances, and phases of life come and go, and we must learn to embrace that impermanence. This acceptance does not mean resignation. It means recognizing that holding on to something that is no longer aligned with who we are or who we are becoming only holds us back. Letting go is a process of surrender, of acknowledging that our attachment to something may be preventing us from stepping into a brighter, more expansive future. One of the first steps in the process of letting go is identifying what it is we need to release. Often we are attached to ideas, beliefs, or memories that have become so ingrained in our psyche that we no longer question their validity. These attachments may take the form of past hurts, regrets, or expectations of how things should be. Letting go requires us to take a step back and ask ourselves whether holding on to these thoughts, people, or emotions is truly serving our highest good. It asks us to reconsider the stories we've told ourselves and ask whether they are still relevant or are simply keeping us stuck in the past. Once we've identified what we need to let go of, the next step is to allow ourselves to feel the emotions tied to those attachments. Often we avoid the discomfort of letting go because it brings up feelings of grief, fear, or sadness. These emotions are valid, and we must allow ourselves to experience them without judgment. It's important to understand that feeling pain is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of our human capacity to love and care deeply. Letting go is not about suppressing or ignoring these feelings, but about processing them and giving ourselves the permission to heal. As we move through the emotional journey of letting go, it's essential to practice self-compassion. This is not a quick or easy process, and there will be moments of resistance or setbacks. However, every step we take toward releasing what no longer serves us is an act of self-love and growth. It's important to acknowledge and honor the courage it takes to release the familiar and step into the unknown, even if that means facing uncertainty. Finally, letting go involves creating space for new possibilities, new people, and new opportunities to enter our lives. When we hold on too tightly to something, we close ourselves off to what is meant for us. Letting go creates a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. When we release what no longer serves us, we open the door for new experiences that align with our true desires and purpose. In this space of release, we allow ourselves to be guided by trust, faith, and the knowing that what we let go of will be replaced by something far greater. Focusing on your growth is a powerful act of self-care and self-awareness. It's about dedicating time, energy, and attention to the continuous development of your mind, body, and spirit. Personal growth isn't just about achieving goals or accumulating knowledge. It's about becoming more aligned with your true self, unlocking your fullest potential, and embracing the journey of self-discovery. This process is unique to each individual as it involves deeply personal reflection, setting meaningful intentions, and making choices that nurture and strengthen who you are. At the heart of focusing on your growth is the willingness to embrace change. Growth requires a certain level of discomfort, because growth is inherently tied to transformation, and transformation means stepping outside of what is familiar. When you decide to focus on your growth, you're deciding to leave behind the status quo, challenge your current limitations, and question beliefs or behaviors that may no longer serve you. Growth requires you to step into the unknown with faith and courage, trusting that the process, though sometimes challenging, will lead you toward becoming the person you are meant to be. Growth also requires mindfulness, an awareness of where you are, where you've been, and where you want to go. It's about being honest with yourself, about your strengths and areas of improvement, and not shying away from the uncomfortable truths that surface during self-reflection. This type of honesty doesn't come from a place of judgment, but from a place of acceptance and love. You must be willing to acknowledge your flaws, mistakes, and insecurities, while simultaneously celebrating your progress, resilience, and growth. It's this balance that empowers you to continue evolving without being paralyzed by self-doubt or fear. A key element in focusing on your growth is committing to lifelong learning. Growth does not stop at a certain age, achievement, or milestone. It's a continuous journey that requires an open mind and a willingness to learn from every experience. This could mean reading, seeking mentorship, taking new courses, or exploring different perspectives. But growth is also about learning from within. It's about listening to your inner voice, learning from your emotions, and using the wisdom gained from past experiences to make better decisions in the future. Every situation, whether positive or negative, offers a lesson that contributes to your evolution. Focusing on your growth also means prioritizing your well-being. Emotional, physical, and mental health are deeply interconnected, and when you nurture one, the others naturally benefit. Taking care of your body through exercise, healthy eating, and rest is just as crucial as tending to your mind through mindfulness, therapy, or creative expression. As you grow, you may find that certain habits, environments, or people no longer support your well-being. This awareness can guide you in making the necessary changes that align with your evolving needs and aspirations. Equally important is the practice of setting intentions that are in alignment with your growth. This means defining what success looks like for you and how you want to show up in the world. When you set intentions, you're taking ownership of your future rather than passively letting life dictate your path. Intentions provide direction, purpose, and clarity in the often chaotic journey of personal growth. They serve as a compass, guiding you toward the person you are becoming while helping you stay grounded and focused when obstacles arise.